At the age of 20, I had a boyfriend. He taught me to propose a toast, flatter others, and understand worldly wisdom. I disliked him for being too worldly and broke up with him in a few days. Later, when we met again at the age of 25, after drinking 3 glasses of Baijiu, I begged him to sign this contract. He smiled faintly and tapped his finger on the table. Ms. Liu's glass is too heavy. I'm afraid I can't afford it. When I met Andrew, I was quietly avoiding the hand stretched out by my bald boss. Look at what you said. You are very powerful. I still need your care in the future. Having been in the business field for several years, I have risen from a low-level clerk to the position of marketing director. I have learned enough flattering words for various occasions, and can say them without any embarrassment. But the moment I saw that familiar figure, I almost dropped the wine glass in my hand. The baijiu stuck in my throat, and couldn't be swallowed. It was burning painfully. Come on, sister. Let me introduce you. This is Mr. Shen Han, the founder of our famous XI Enying technology, and a new business elite. Mr. Shen Han. This is Jenny. Let's get to know each other. 5 years later, the man in front of me is no longer the entrepreneur who holds a wine glass and begs people everywhere. He sits calmly in the main seat. Every move he makes exudes the pressure of a superior. My hand trembled a little, but I still mustered up the courage to propose a toast. Mr. Shen Han, I propose a toast to you. Andrew's gaze swept over me, and then curved faintly. Ms. Liu's glass is too heavy. I'm afraid I can't afford this toast. Everyone here is shrewd. The big shot's attitude has been made clear. Soon, I went from being confident and at ease to being ignored. Looking at the man's indifferent gaze sweeping over me without stopping, my heart suddenly cooled by half. This project is probably hopeless. And so is my promotion. With a stuffy heart, I greeted my colleagues and left the banquet early. Leaning against the door, I lit a cigarette. After working hard for more than half a year and traveling to more than a dozen cities, I actually failed because of Andrew. I gave a helpless wry smile. Unexpectedly, the culprit still had to appear. Who said it before? The one who hates people who smoke and drink the most. Andrew's voice was faint, with a hint of teasing. I also sneered. Is Mr. Shen so free? Coming to see his ex-girlfriend's joke? When Andrew and I were in a relationship, his company had just started, and I was just a poor student. He taught me worldly wisdom, how to get along well with teachers, and how to say beautiful words. Looking at that handsome and good-looking face full of calculation, my heart was broken. After going to several drinking parties with him, I broke up with him. Andrew, a person like you who is always weighing pros and cons and is duplicitous doesn't deserve good feelings. That year, I was extremely ambitious and firmly believed that sincerity and hard work could defeat everything in the world. And Andrew, smoking a cigarette, his still handsome face showed no trace of naivety. He said, Jenny, you are still young. You don't understand. I didn't say anything. I just left resolutely. 5 years later, he stood in front of me, noble and unruly, with great success. It was as if he was silently mocking how naive I used to be. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. Ms. Liu is so confident in the drinking party. Has your boss taught you? It seemed that he had drunk a bit too much and leaned close to me. The ambiguous atmosphere hit my ear. The man's fingertips seemed to brush my earlobe faintly. Is there another way to win the project? 3 at this point. Even a fool would understand what it means. I frowned. I originally wanted to push away the man in front of me, but inadvertently caught a glimpse of the letter tat on his ring finger. J. Memories from the past came flooding back. Andrew, write my name here. You can only marry me. Then I'll write one on your hand too. I don't need it written on mine. Wait for you to bring a ring and put it on. I stared at the man in front of me. He was much more mature than before, with his eyes narrowed and a faint smile on his lips. He still seemed like the boyfriend who watched me go crazy at night. My heart seemed to suddenly stop beating. The longing hidden in 7 years seemed to pour out suddenly. I was stunned and then kissed him stupidly, letting him pick me up horizontally. As it turns out, old skills are still useful. When I woke up the next day, my waist was sore and my back ached. And Andrew, wearing a bathrobe, leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window with a calm expression, looking at me leisurely. His tone was faint, but it was really not gentle. "Now you are really desperate." I could understand the sarcasm in his words, but I couldn't refute it. So I simply made my attitude clear. "Where's the contract?" He sneered coldly. "Are you so valuable? Are you worth tens of millions for one night? What do you mean?" He looked at me and walked towards me. The delicate collarbone was exposed in the air, and faint red marks drew ambiguous traces. "Be my lover for 3 months." He leaned over and looked down at me. His messy hair spread on his forehead. It was rare and had the long-lost handsome look. I said, "Okay." For when my best friend heard that I agreed to Andrew's request, she almost spat out a mouthful of water. After a moment, she had a naughty smile on her face. "Whether it's for the project or because you really can't let go of him, you know it in your heart." I was stunned. Can't let go? Over the years, especially in these many years since I entered society, I often remember Andrew in my dreams. I remember his gentle smile on the corner of his mouth, and the many useless nights he wore a suit and accompanied me on campus. I remember his bloodshot eyes asking me if we could not break up. I remember him biting a cigarette and murmuring about his many pasts. He said his family situation was not good. Since he was a child, relatives and friends had looked down on him. In the year he was admitted to a key university, no one congratulated him. Instead, a group of jealous relatives came to sneer at him. A runaway father, a disabled mother, and a poor him. They all said that he would never be successful in his life. So he worked hard and was motivated. Relationships that other college students looked down upon, he tried his best to strive for them all. In his junior year, with the investment of his rich second-generation roommate, he went out to start a business. He drank. He flattered. He seized every opportunity he could with all his might. But it was such a boy who worked extremely hard that in the end, he humbly begged me, "Can we not break up?" I didn't want it to be like this either. I also really want to be innocent and grow up when the time comes. I couldn't answer him. After all, at that time, I wasn't him. I haven't experienced the same life as him. I have my own persistence and desires. Until later, I stirred the coffee in the cup. It was murky and bitter in my throat. I didn't answer my best friend's question. I just said, "I don't know what's going on, but I often dream about him. I want to go back to his side. Go back to his side in any way." Andrew's work is extremely busy. Even though he is already in a high position, his working hours every day are still much longer than mine. After agreeing to be his lover, except for very few times when he would pick me up and take me to his apartment, this is the first time he has asked me to go to his office. In the magnificent office building, the president's office on the 46th floor overlooks the most prosperous scene in the capital. Just when I was slightly stunned, I was already pushed against the floor-to-ceiling window by the man. Shen Hun. My soft lips were blocked. I helplessly endured this sudden storm. At the moment when emotions were most difficult to restrain, I heard him growl in my ear. "Don't go to Ian's gatherings anymore." I was pushed so hard that I trembled, crying and shouting. I agreed to everything, until I was held on Andrew's lap. When my consciousness returned, I finally realized. This man is angry. Are you following me? Ian is a client I used to work with. Elegant and gentlemanly. After the project ended, he pursued me for a while. Although I didn't agree, he still politely proposed to be friends. We are not teenagers anymore. Emotional matters such as confession or breakup are the least worthy of mention. Without thinking much, I agreed. Andrew told me last night that he had to work overtime. So I went to Ian's birthday party. But I didn't expect him to be so angry. He and I are just ordinary friends. Don't. He sneered. Lit a cigarette while holding my waist. I was choked and trembled. Only hearing him whisper hatefully in my ear. There's no such thing as an ordinary friend. Jenny. He pinched my chin. And there was a ruthlessness in his eyes that I had never seen before. You are mine now. You'd better be honest. The clear pain in my waist came. I nodded and showed weakness knowingly. Yes. I know. Have dinner together at night? Andrew pushed me away, and walked into the lounge to change clothes. Work overtime at night. Eat by yourself. He threw a card at me. Black. I didn't say anything. I put the card in my pocket and went directly to drink with my best friend. But unexpectedly, outside the private room of the tavern, I saw Andrew. He had changed into casual clothes. White shirt and black pants. The broken hair on his forehead was scattered. Just like an ungraduated college student. After our reunion, I had never seen him like this. So, I was stunned. Until a girl walked past me. Calling him copious lie. Andrew. The cigarette butt in my hand trembled. And the ash fell on my pants. Leaving a large mark. Renee. Andrews. Rumored fiancé. 6 when I was chasing Andrew. Renee was also chasing him. Renee is the younger sister of his investor roommate. A proper rich young lady. Beautiful and rich. Compared to me. A useless poor student. I still can't figure out why he chose me today. But later there was no need to think about it. After I broke up with Andrew, the news that Renee was with him spread all over the circle of friends. Although the two haven't officially responded. It's all tacit. That night, when Andrew offered me an olive branch, I still hesitated and asked. What about Renee? He said. What does it have to do with her? At that time, I was slightly stunned, thinking that they weren't together yet. Now looking at Renee intimately holding Andrew's arm and Andrew affectionately rubbing her hair, my heart is extremely desolate. What does it have to do with her? She is the official girlfriend who is about to get married. I am just a trading object who sold myself for a contract. Without interfering with each other. What does it matter? Looking at the two people who were extremely close not far away. The steps I should have taken actually couldn't move at all. Until Renee's pleasant voice fell into my ears along with the noisy music. Does she know why you are with her? Aren't you afraid that she will hate you? Hate? This word is too special. I suddenly came to my senses. Staring fixedly at the man in front. He smiled and rubbed the tattoo on his ring finger. The cool music of the bar covered his voice. But I still saw his lip movements. Not afraid. He said. Hate is deserved. 7 when I went home at night. I couldn't get back to my senses for a long time. All I could think about was Andrew's faint smile and meaningful look in the bar. My best friend once said that Andrew's actions were very abnormal. I once abandoned him so blatantly. Now, he has specifically asked me to come back to him. My best friend doesn't understand why. And neither do I. Not until the word hate came out. Perhaps nothing is accidental. But no matter how hard I racked my brains, I couldn't figure out what in me was worthy of Andrew's exploitation. It wasn't until a gap after a company meeting that I went to deliver materials to my superior. When I passed by the office, I heard my superior and the boss whispering anxiously inside. This Andrew is clearly trying to drive us to our doom. He has long had the intention to acquire our company and monopolize this market. If we don't do it, he will start a price war, and is determined to wipe us out completely. But it's also strange. How did he know our unannounced pricing? Hearing this, I almost screamed. Suddenly, I thought of the other night when I was looking at documents on my desk. Andrew suddenly came over and picked me up to mess around. Did he see it at that time? Or, suddenly, a bold and terrifying thought arose in my heart. Has he been using me all along? Up until the dinner party in the evening. The mystery lingered for a long time. I was constantly on edge. So much so that when Renee came to me with a wine glass, and the glass brushed past my arm and spilled the wine, I suddenly came to my senses. Oh. The wine has no eyes. How come people have no eyes either? Don't you know to dodge? The amber liquid stained my chest, and the light-colored clothes were immediately exposed. Renee raised her eyebrows slightly, and her words were full of provocation. It's okay. As long as it didn't get on you. I casually took a tissue and wiped it. I also understood what Renee was doing by making such a scene. But after all, I was in the wrong. She is the official girlfriend. I didn't want to get entangled, and was about to leave when I lifted my leg. Andrew, who had just entered, reached out, and grabbed me. Ran. Apologize. Renee's eyes immediately reddened. Andrew's expression remained unchanged. He took off his suit and put it on me. Apologize. I don't want to say it a second time. Renee bit her lip but still couldn't resist Andrew. I'm sorry, she said reluctantly. I looked at Andrew's calm expression and his serious look as he dealt with the stain for me. Suddenly, my heart was filled with confusion. You put on a suit for me in full view of everyone. As if casually. You asked me, are you cold? For me. You even neglected your fiancé, holding me in your arms. You turned and left. Do you still have old feelings for me? Or are you intentionally using me? The evening breeze in early summer is very hot and dry. I buried my head deeply in Andrew's arms, seeking a moment of tranquility. Andrew. Yes? Will you harm me? I asked. He opened the card or for me. His face, as always, showed no emotion. After a long time, he said, no. I nodded, stood on tiptoe, and kissed his lips. I returned to my coquettish look of pleasing a benefactor as before. Well, let's go home. He said he wouldn't harm me. That's enough. 9 later. The incident of Andrew standing up for me made waves in the company. At the moment when our relationship was about to be exposed, the company found me. First, there were a bunch of sugar-coated bullets. And then they got to the point. Director Liu. As you know, President Shen has been closely chasing and blocking our company recently. If you can help the company at this time. The boss had a playful expression. Then you will be a hero of our company. I looked at the recording pen and special camera he handed me. Stealing trade secrets is legally liable. Your relationship is not ordinary. The boss said with a smile. It's very normal for a boyfriend to share some company matters with his girlfriend. Isn't it? Seeing me hesitate, the boss added. I know you can't bear to part with Andrew, but you two won't get married anyway. Given his status. He didn't finish the rest of the sentence. But I understood. With his status. It's just for fun. Only the company is your eternal home and your source of income. If the company is good, won't you be good? The boss reached out and handed me a contract. As long as you help me get what I want, you can take 10% of the shares. Some people work hard all their lives just for stock options and shares. Once they leap into the door of a new world and get rid of the identity of an employee. In Andrew's apartment, I held that small recording pen. A thin layer of sweat oozed from my forehead. I thought of a lot. I thought of my unemployed mother. My father who was deeply in debt after a failed business venture. My life that took a nosedive after graduating from college. And the scenes of moving around the city on a shared bike. Happiness is so close. I reached out. But my fingertips trembled slightly. That small strip seemed impossible to hold. I put it down. But I couldn't let it go either. 10. What were you doing just now? When he entered the bedroom, he had already taken a bath and was wearing a bathrobe. Looking at the computer screen and asking me casually, what were you doing in the study for so long? My heart was pounding. But I still pretended to be calm on the surface. Just looking around. I raised my head. Can't I? I forgot which sister told me that being submissive and cautious in front of men all the time is not good. Especially in my special relationship with Andrew. So I deliberately raised my eyes arrogantly, pretending to be as willful as I was in my youth. Or are you hiding a beauty in your study, and not letting people see? Andrew's gaze shifted from the screen and slowly fell on me. His dark eyes were deep, making it impossible to read his thoughts. Of course not. How could I afford to raise several people like you? His tone was relaxed as he pulled me into his arms and kissed me. My heart calmed down a little. Unexpectedly, his voice suddenly changed. There was a hint of sharpness in his playful tone. That recording pen was thrown on me and moved up and down with my heaving chest. After all, how could I have so many secrets for you to dig out? I looked up in shock and was immediately grabbed by the chin by him. Jenny, don't you think you should explain to me what this is? His eyes narrowed slightly. It was a danger I had never seen before. You're scheming against me? 77 looking at the recording pen that I had already thrown into the trash can. Even my breathing was trembling. I didn't. The boss's instructions were on the tip of my tongue. But I couldn't say them no matter what. I didn't know how far I and Andrew could go. I didn't want to risk my future to show my loyalty to him. Fate is short. But I still have to survive. Not revealing or disclosing the shortcomings and disadvantages of the previous company is the most basic professional ethics. So, I moved my thin lips. I don't know where you found this thing. But I really didn't record anything about you with it. You can check. No matter what I delete, you can find a specialized technician to find it out. Looking at Andrew's still cold and sharp expression, full of distrust, my tears suddenly fell. 5 years ago, I loathed his hypocrisy and what he did in the business field. 5 years later, I am in it. I can't even defend myself. The bystander has become a player. I tightly grabbed the collar of his bathrobe and sobbed uncontrollably. I'm not so despicable. Over the years, I have indeed drunk and socialized. I have never avoided the most straightforward side of human nature. Competing with colleagues and flattering superiors. For success and for life. I have taken many paths that I looked down upon. But at that moment just now, I still gave up. At 25 years old. Jenny can't use such means to get a promotion. At 20 years old. She can't forgive herself at 25. I threw that recording pen into the trash can downstairs. I smashed the camera to pieces. But it was still found. Spread out in front of me. Implying that I had had that most despicable thought. The past 5 years seemed to be spread out as well. I sobbed uncontrollably. Crying for my former self and crying for my present self. I really didn't. I know I'm not as innocent as before. I know I couldn't say it. I could only keep crying. I know you don't believe me. I believe you. Andrew suddenly spoke. Amidst my blurred tears, his beautiful eyes suddenly flashed. As if relieved. He raised his hand and pulled me into his arms. I believe you, he repeated, patting my back as if to comfort me. I believe you. 12 I forgot how long I cried that day. When I woke up, Andrew was gone. I hurriedly got up and was about to pack my things and leave immediately. After all, Andrew had given an order before. When he was not around, I couldn't stay in his apartment. There are no strange women at home. Except for the tender moments. I am just a strange woman to him. But today it seems different. The aunt who takes care of his daily life raised her hand to stop me. Miss Liu. Where are you going? Mr. Shen has instructed that all your things be moved here. From today on, you will live here. I was stunned. Live here? Doesn't that mean that Andrew and I are living together? I was stunned when suddenly the company's phone call came. The boss seemed very angry and didn't beat around the bush. He directly said, "The company is going to fire you." The hand holding the phone tightened. And I wasn't shocked inside. Saying it's a home actually depends on whether there is any use value. Perhaps my use value was good before. But this contract has not been finalized for a long time. I also refused the boss regarding Andrew's matter. He fired me without hesitation. In the afternoon, looking at the dismissal notice in my hand, I gave a helpless self-mocking smile. I came to this company when I was 20 years old. I worked, got promoted, and got a raise. Now I am 25 years old. It seems that everything has suddenly become nothing. Just then, my mom called me. Dear, are you living well recently? Is everything going smoothly? How long until the mortgage is paid off? Recently your dad is not in good health. See if you can send some more money. My mom hesitated but had no choice. If this surgery is delayed any longer, it won't work. I quickly nodded. But there wasn't much left of last month's salary with all the miscellaneous expenses. Mom, don't worry. I'll gather some. Before I could finish speaking, my phone was suddenly snatched away. Hello, Aunt. I am Jenny's boyfriend. Looking up and meeting Andrew's eyes, I was so shocked that I couldn't say a word. Well, don't worry. I will take good care of her. I will be responsible for your and uncle's needs. I will ask Jenny to transfer the money to you later. Andrew's tone was respectful and friendly. After saying a few words to my mom in a low voice, he put the phone back in my hand. After experiencing what happened last night, I clearly saw how powerful this man is. All those careful thoughts in the past disappeared. I obediently lowered my head. Thank you. Andrew curved his lips. It should be. Raising a canary. I have to invest a little. Last night, he called me so tenderly. He moved all my things into his apartment. Let the ad call me the mistress. But at this moment, he mercilessly exposed the unseemly relationship between us. My heart tightened. In a trance. It seemed that I couldn't understand this man in front of me anymore. I will ask my secretary to arrange your dad's surgery. I will be on a business trip in a few days. Stay at home and be good. He raised his hand and stroked my long hair. The word home seemed natural and affectionate. The words separate were stuck in my throat. So awkward that I couldn't say it. I stared blankly at the letters on his finger and once again selfishly chose. Well, I will wait for you to come back at home. 3 months. It will be soon. After 3 months, we won't see each other again. I want these 3 months. 13 during the time Andrew was away. Many things happened in the business field. The company I used to work for was acquired by Yang Technology. Andrew's business empire added another piece. At the same time, the relationship between me and him falling in love and living together was exposed. I fell into a situation of being targeted by everyone. This woman won't reveal her company's news to her boyfriend. Will she? The business war between the two companies was so fierce some time ago. It is estimated that she must have had a hand in it. So scheming. There was a lot of public opinion. Even Nian, who usually doesn't care about business affairs, came to find me. What's going on with you? Did you really give the news to Andrew? Do you know that you will be banned in this industry? In a private tea house in Beijing, I poured the brewed tea into the teacup in front of Ian. Calmly said, I have never revealed the news to anyone. I still have this professional quality. Looking at Ian's puzzled gaze, I explained, first, I don't have so much definite news in my hands. The company won't give it to me either. Second, it's clearly my former company's boss, who wants to drag me down in a desperate situation and smear Andrew at the same time. Looking at my calm appearance, Ian still seemed a little worried. Then how can you be sure that Andrew is not using you to set up a trap? After all, I heard that your breakup was not pleasant. Hearing this, my hand trembled, and the tea spilled along the cup. It fell on the table and formed a light patch. I suddenly thought of the night when Renee made things difficult for me. A man lowered his head and carefully covered the stains on my body. I asked him, will you harm me? He said, no. I moved the tea aside and met Tian's gaze. Seriously said, he won't use me. I know he won't. In fact, I don't know where I got the confidence. So much so that after I said those words, I felt like I had lost all my strength. Ian looked at me for a long time and slowly smiled. It seems that I was overthinking. I thought you and Andrew were just a fleeting relationship. I thought I had found an opportunity to take advantage. But it seems that you are sincere to him. I was stunned. I didn't expect him to suddenly bring up the topic of emotions. Andrew's fierce words at that time once again appeared in my mind. There is no such thing as a pure friendship. TSK. He was right. I was lost in thought when suddenly I heard Dian ask again, if I had helped you in a certain contract back then, would you consider being with me? After years of struggling. There are quite a lot of such olive branches. I didn't hesitate and shook my head resolutely. No. I will work hard and strive. But I won't use myself as a bargaining chip. I really like Andrew. Not for profit. As soon as the words fell, the sliding door of the tatami was opened. The man, with an indescribable smile, stood in front of me again after half a month. He took my arm and protected me in his arms. Okay. Let's go home. 14. I am 100% sure that Andrew must have heard what I said about liking him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pressed me in the car before we even got home. Acting like a beast. I am not as thick-skinned as him. When I was kissed so hard that I couldn't catch my breath, I pushed him away with all my strength, putting my finger on his lips. Panting, I asked, How? How did you know I was here? He raised his eyebrows. You live in my house. Can't I know where you are? Hearing this, I couldn't help frowning slightly. My heart twisted into a knot. During the time he was away, we talked on the phone, video chatted, and did all the things that little couples would do. As if we were a truly loving couple. I was in a trance and had thoughts I shouldn't have. I pressed on his lips, and let him kiss the back of my hand. The sun set. The sunset fell. It was very much like the day we first met. So with a slight movement in my heart, I asked the question I shouldn't have asked the most. Andrew? Will you marry me? 15. This question itself doesn't need an answer. He is a new business elite with hundreds of millions of assets in his hands. In the future, he will probably not be worthy of someone with a family background like Renee. He will marry a young lady from a prominent family. Through marriage alliances, they will join forces and make their children win at the starting line from birth, rather than a woman like me who doesn't even have a job. He looked at me and didn't speak. A charming atmosphere seemed to fall to the bottom all of a sudden. I was stunned for a moment, and quickly came to my senses. Were you scared? I was joking. I'm not so clueless. When I said 3 months, it means. Andrew suddenly hugged me. Jenny. He called my name, just like when we were in love many years ago. Be good. He said. Suddenly his voice was full of fatigue. Be good and stay with me for a while. Be good and stay with me for a while. I have seen these words in novels I read when I was young. The meaning is nothing more than, I won't marry you. But I like you very much. So stay with me for a while. When I get tired of it, then, we'll talk about it later. The heroine in the story is indulged but also clear-headed. So she chooses to leave resolutely. But I don't seem to be a very clear-headed and rational person. When I was young, I left Andrew because of my passion and that unnecessary lofthines. Until now, knowing that there is no ending, I still plunged into it. When I was a child, someone told my fortune, and said that this girl is true to her nature. Just a bit reckless. Looking at it now, it's really true. I patted Andrew on the back, clearly smiling. But there is still no end in sight on the road ahead. Only confusion. I said, okay. Stay with you for a while longer. Obediently. Stay with you for a while. 16 later. Thinking about it. That period of time was truly the happiest 2 months and more in my life. Andrew and I were inseparable. We read books, watched movies, and traveled. He also took me to cocktail parties as in the past. Without the youthful recklessness, I obediently followed behind him and greeted those big shots who could only be seen in financial magazines one by one. I said compliments and auspicious words fluently. Everyone joked, Jenny has Andrew's style back then. Very similar in dealing with people and matters. He smiled faintly and held my finger. Interlocking our fingers. He taught me how to deal with this continuous stream of people. Amidst the clinking of glasses and the gathering of distinguished guests, I suddenly thought of a sentence. I am a rose grown up by his own hands. For many years to come, there will be his shadow on me, even if he is not by my side. 17 The day Andrew disappeared soon came. It was an early morning. The sunlight in the room was just right. He didn't come to kiss me. The room was already empty. As if this person had never existed. The nanny aunt came and said that this apartment had been transferred to my name. Mr. Chen had left. I nodded. My heart ached very much. But more of it was numbness. After all, he still has his own path to follow. This moment of joy is enough for me to remember for a very long time. I got up, washed up and brushed my teeth. Preparing to go to a language class later. I planned to study and work abroad. The money in my hand was just enough after giving some to my parents. Everything was planned well until I saw the toothbrush on the washed sand. The pink electric toothbrush leaned against a corner of the counter. Opposite it seemed empty. There was still a cup there yesterday. The owner of the cup hugged me and finished brushing my teeth. From time to time, he kissed me with his unshaved stubble. I screamed and dodged. We played and kissed. Tears suddenly fell. They couldn't be stopped. He left. He really left. And he will never come back. The crying got louder and louder. Finally, I was completely exhausted. I roared out, completely like a final vent. Andrew, I will never see you again. Never. See you again. Later. I really didn't see him again. 18 I got news of Andrew again through Renee. When she called, I was taking a taxi to the language class. It was on QIXI Festival. The surrounding stores were all filled with beautiful flowers. I suddenly thought of not long ago. Andrew gave me a bouquet of flowers. I didn't know what kind of flower it was, but I remembered seeing it in a magazine of a big-name wedding dress. I was very excited and asked him what it meant. Even at that time, I still had expectations. His fingertips whirled around my hair. He smiled gently but also coldly. Just a bouquet of flowers. Don't think too much. The taxi was playing. Don't expose it on Valentine's Day. Only dare to touch your hair. Will this attitude make you more sad? Stay in the car to keep warm. How should I persuade you? How can you bear to cut your wrist? How short is a life lived to a certain age? Losing love is even shorter. The phone rang just at that time. Renee's tired and sad voice rang out. Andrew has passed away. Come here. Forgive me for not sending flowers anymore. The wound should heal. Only when the petals cover the cemetery in my heart will I be afraid. If you must marry no one but me, we will eventually be cremated. Waiting for one day in a lifetime comes at a price. The song played repeatedly. I really can't wait for him anymore. 19. He was diagnosed with cancer before he met you. These years he has been very tired and worked very hard. His mother often asks him for money. There is no one by his side. The doctor said that the mental stress is too great. It's not easy to hold on until today. Renee handed me a letter. Later, when he knew that his time was running out, I asked him what his wish was. He thought for a long time. And then he said it was you. He said that when he was young and drinking and socializing outside, there was always a little girl who stopped him and wouldn't let him drink. Renee murmured in a low voice. Those scenes dyed in old colors came rushing towards her. Andrew, do you know that you are really doing harm to your body like this? You can be duplicitous. But if you keep all your true words suppressed at the bottom of your heart, sooner or later you will break down. It's too tiring to be with you. I also always feel anxious unconsciously. Let's break up. Tears streamed down. Renee smiled helplessly. In fact, I don't know why he went to find you. Obviously, you were the one who abandoned him at the beginning. But he said that you were the only one who advised him to stop when he was charging forward on the thorny road with all his might. Told him not to work so hard and relax. No one has ever advised him like this. Everyone is waiting for him to become outstanding. So at the last moment of his life, he wants to come back to you. Renee patted me on the shoulder. Her tone sad but also helpless. He divided all his assets into two parts. One part was given to his mother, and the other part was given to you. He hopes you can live a good life and not be like him. And, before walking out of the bleak and pale room, Renee suddenly turned back and said to me, I have never been with him. I like girls. He covers for me. I'm sorry that day. I just wanted to see if you were sincere to him. He is like my elder brother. I also hope he is happy. In the end, Renee said, live a good life. Live a good life as he expected. 20 Andrew's letter is not long. Brief and powerful. Just like his life. Leaving me with infinite tenderness. He said, when you see this letter, I should be gone. I have left you a lot of things. I hope you can stick to your original self and live a happy and relaxed life. Before I met you, my life was only about striving and working hard. After meeting you, a short stay was warm enough. When we met again later, I saw your efforts and saw that you were forced by life. We will all change in this life and run around for life. But you are still you, brave in pursuing what you want, but not giving up what you have always insisted on. The moment you threw those things into the trash can, I stood on the second floor and looked at you. I thought, the person I love is still that person. Those things she insisted on back then still exist. And I still love her. That's great. I hope you are always happy, principled, hardworking and upward. That is the meaning of my last efforts. I love you. Andrew. Postscript. Jenny later took over Rek'Sai and Yang Technology in an all-round way. The company is not large in scale, but it has always implemented a relaxed working system. A few years later, it was even selected as the most beloved technology company. She runs the company very well. Just like when Andrew was around.